Rome, 65 AD. A man kneels in sand that has already turned dark twice that afternoon. He does not look at the crowd. He never does. Above him, 40,000 people have gone quiet. Not from boredom, but because they know what silence means here. It means the fight is already over, and it ended faster than anyone could cheer for. His name is carved nowhere official, no triumphal arch, no Senate record. But inside the palace on the Palatine Hill, a 19-year-old emperor has started calling him something no gladiator had ever been called before. Friend. Nero will give this man estates. Nero will give this man the fortune of retired consuls, men who spent decades earning what this man earned in an afternoon of killing. And 3 years from now, when the empire turns on Nero and the guards abandon him one by one, the emperor will call for this exact man by name, begging for the one mercy a sword can offer. He will not come. To understand why, you have to go back before the fortune, before the palace, before the crowds learned his name. Spiculus arrived in Rome the way most gladiators did, as property. Sold into a ludus, one of the private training schools that fed bodies into Rome's arenas, the way granaries fed bread into its streets. Most men who entered those schools died within 2 years. The average gladiator's career lasted roughly 10 fights before the sand claimed him for good. Spiculus was not most men. Trainers noted something in him early, not just skill, but a stillness. Other gladiators postured for the crowd, played to the upper tiers, sold the fantasy of a warrior's rage. Spiculus did none of it. He watched, he waited, and when he moved, it was already finished before the audience understood what they'd seen. By his mid-20s, he'd become something the ludus had never produced before. A fighter emperors wanted to watch in person. And in the year 59 AD, one particular emperor did. A young man barely out of his teens, freshly consolidating power, hungry for spectacle, and for men who could deliver it without hesitation. Nero did not just watch Spiculus fight. Nero studied him. Gladiators occupied one of the lowest legal statuses in Roman society. Infamia, a formal stain that stripped a man of the right to testify in court, to hold office, to be buried with honor. They were celebrated and despised in the same breath, desired and untouchable. Nero erased that line for one man. The historian Suetonius recorded it plainly, almost with disbelief. Nero gave Spiculus gifts equal to the fortunes awarded to generals who had celebrated full military triumphs, the highest honor Rome could bestow on a commander who'd conquered nations, palaces, land. Wealth that senators spent lifetimes accumulating, handed in full to a man the law still classified as barely human. Rome noticed. Rome always notices when the natural order bends. The Senate seethed quietly. The old aristocracy, already suspicious of Nero's theatrical excess, watched a slave-born killer dine at tables they'd fought generations to sit at. But no one said it aloud, not yet. Because the other thing everyone had started noticing, the thing that kept the criticism behind closed doors, was that Nero never went anywhere without him. By the early 60s AD, Spiculus wasn't just fighting for Nero's entertainment, he was fighting for Nero's safety. Emperors in this period lived under constant, justified paranoia. Poison plots, senatorial conspiracies, Praetorian guards whose loyalty shifted with the political wind. Nero had already survived one attempt on his life by 62 AD, the Pisonian conspiracy still years away, but its shadow already forming. A man like Spiculus, trained to end a fight before his opponent registered the first move, was not just a gift to keep close. He was insurance. Ancient sources are frustratingly thin on the exact mechanics of what role Spiculus played beyond the arena. Rome's chroniclers cared more about senators than about the men who guarded them. But the pattern is there, if you look for it. A gladiator, elevated past the point of usefulness as pure spectacle, kept in proximity to the one man in the empire who most needed someone willing to kill without flinching. And somewhere in that arrangement, a second name enters the record beside his, a second favored gladiator, sometimes mentioned in the same breath as Spiculus in later accounts. Whether they were rivals, allies, or simply two blades Nero kept for two different purposes, no source says outright. Only that Nero trusted very few people by the end. Spiculus was one of them. Historians have spent centuries trying to reconstruct what Nero actually wanted from Spiculus: protector, executioner, or something closer to a living reassurance that violence, when it came, would come quickly and on his terms. The theories split along predictable lines. Some read the relationship as pure political theater. Nero, obsessed with performance and spectacle in every part of his reign, elevating a gladiator publicly to unsettle the Senate and remind them who controlled the truest form of power, the power to kill cleanly in front of everyone. Others read it as something closer to genuine dependency, a young emperor surrounded by people who wanted him dead, finding the only person he trusted in a man paid to be violent for a living. Both theories agree on one detail, and it's the detail that matters. By 68 AD, as the empire fractured and the Senate declared Nero a public enemy, as his guards deserted in real time and his allies vanished into the political wind, Nero did not call for a senator, did not call for a general, did not call for family. He called for Spiculus. Suetonius records the final hours in unsettling detail. Nero, hiding in a freedman's villa outside Rome, guards gone, army turned, sent men out to find Spiculus specifically, not to protect him this time, but to kill him. A mercy Nero couldn't bring himself to perform on his own throat. Spiculus was not found. No record explains why. Maybe the search came too late. Rome in chaos, messengers unable to locate one man in a collapsing empire. Maybe Spiculus, seeing which way the wind had turned, made himself very difficult to find. A gladiator who'd spent his career reading the exact moment to strike would have understood, better than almost anyone in Rome, the exact moment to disappear. Nero died that day by his own hand, with the help of a secretary, not the trained killer he'd showered with a fortune, not the man he'd elevated above senators, not the friend he'd trusted with his life for nearly a decade. The most feared blade in Rome was somewhere else entirely, and history never explains where. No burial record survives for Spiculus, no death date, no final chapter. A man who fought in front of 40,000 people, who held wealth equal to conquering generals, who stood close enough to an emperor to end his life with one motion, simply stops appearing in the historical record after 68 AD. Rome remembered his name for a generation. Then it didn't. Somewhere in that silence is the answer to what he actually was to Nero: protector, weapon, or simply the one man who understood, long before anyone else, exactly when to vanish. He just never told anyone.